Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. Man, it feels like forever since I've been to a proper tournament. Finally got into one this past weekend and just decided to take something a little goofy. After all this list building we've done, I've played quite a few games here at home. I just kind of wanted to take something a little different, and I definitely did that. So, this list, I would built it around focusing really on the Saurus Knights here. So that's the focus of this list. I've got two big units of Saurus Knights, and I'm going to just want to apply as many buffs to them or debuffs to the target. So that was the idea behind the list. When we look at my leaders here, and we'll go through this whole thing, we are playing in Koatl's Claw, so we get a +1 to all the Saurus units if they charge. You also have a command point that you can give them another +1 to their hit, if they haven't charged. You can basically act like they've charged. So that is helpful, especially with a lot of the Saurus stuff that doesn't really have good profiles. The best thing about the Knights is that they have a ton of attacks. So if you can lean into that, you can make them decent. And so, but you got to do some work at it. And so that's where my heroes come in. I do have a Skink Star Priest, and he has Hand of Glory. And that Skink Star Priest, buffs a lot of our units. It gives, Hand of Glory gives reroll hit rolls of 1, which is a great spell. Its native spell is a -1 to hit on your opponent. And so kind of my plan was to help use that as part of my debuffing plan. But if I'm going into attack, Hand of Glory is number 1. Its Venom Staff is also just critical, an ability. You don't have to use any command points on it, but it allows one of your units to proc mortal wounds on wound rolls of 6. Very good with all of our source stuff because a lot of this doesn't have much rend. Nothing produces mortals outside of this Skink Star Priest, so you kind of need it if you're going to run any kind of source heavy list. The other hero here is your Skink Starseer. This is my general with command trait Master Magic, Artifact Arcane Tome, and taking Hand of Glory. So my thought process behind this is that it's going to be, my heavy caster. I'm going to need it to carry some of the important spells on its back. The big one is its native spell, which is either +1 to save for one of our units or -1 to save for one of the enemy's units. And this really helps. It effectively gives whatever you're attacking that unit with an extra -1 to rend. So Knights, which would be my primary source of damage, would effectively get rend. All those attacks they have don't have any rend. This really helps them put a little bit more damage through. But with Arcane Tome and Master Magic, you do get a reroll for a spell and Unbind and Dispel, which is pretty critical for this because a lot of these things you want to get off. I did take Hand of Glory, but I also want to cast probably Mystic Shield with the Starseer. That's what I attempted to cast quite a bit. So I'm either on a unit, I'm either +2 to the save because it's got its native spell for +1 to save, and then Mystic Shield was kind of my intent behind it, especially if I'm buffing my big block of warriors, or if I need to make sure some knights stay alive. So there's quite a bit of flexibility here, some strategic flexibility if you use it right. My Saurus Scarvet on Cold One is a hero who gets the artifact Eviscerating Blade. You have to take that one for Koatl's Claw. You can get out of the command trait by not having a Saurus as your general. That's what I did here. So, Scarvet on Cold One is actually pretty good for buffing Saurus. You can spend a command point and let your Saurus, the hit rolls of 6 explode. So, Knights have a ton of attacks. I'm re-rolling 1s. 6s are going to explode. So, hopefully you can get a bunch of this kind of dice train rolling here. So, you're throwing a ton of dice at things. I also have a Saurus Ashfloth Bearer, which will just help out my 2 Skink Wizards and provide me a bubble of 6-up ward save for all my hordes of Saurus. Especially if you put that in the Realm Shaper engine. That bubble gets even bigger, and you can cover most of your army on deployment with that 6-up ward save. But it also buffs your wizards, giving you +1 and extra range. So a lot of times you can hit on their debuff spells turn 1 onto the opponent if you've let them move up or something, or depending on the deployment, they'll probably be in range because you can get up to 24 inches on those critical spells. So if I can debuff the enemy unit move up my knights, use the Skink Star Seer's 3d6 to charge, and now I can hopefully get my knights into combat turn 1 if I want to. It makes for an interesting ploy. You do have to have quite a bit of stuff go your way, so including some spells casts. But when it works, it's pretty fun. You'll notice a pretty big chunk of points there. 485 is in Gotrek. I do have my Gotrek converted with a Old Blood on foot, so he does look like a source unit. He's been hanging out with the coalesced units for far too long. He's sprouted a tail. So I was sitting here trying to contemplate, do I want to bring 2 Carnosaurs as my last 2 hero spots? Or do I put in Gotrek? In the end, I went with Gotrek just because I was wanting all the other buff pieces here in the list. And Gotrek will do more damage than Carnosaurs. So I put him in the list just kind of as a scary piece. I'm going to have a ton of wounds and then Gotrek that you're going to have to deal with too. So an interesting little dynamic there. Gotrek can hit those high armor targets. All my knights can hit the hordes and stuff. At least that's the idea. I did have 30 warriors reinforced twice with clubs, so they do have rend. And I put them in expert conquerors. I have 2 units of reinforced Saurus Knights. Those are in bounty hunters, so you get an extra pip of damage against Galician veterans. And that actually did come in pretty handy in this tournament. I then added in 2 units of Saurus Guard just as kind of some screens, some objective grabbers. They are in expert conquerors to help me grab objectives. And they actually did pretty well. They held on to some objectives for me in game 2 for sure. But otherwise, also did some good stuff playing the objectives. I could have taken Skinks or something that could have fulfilled the same role, but I'm trying to go source heavy in this, and so that's why I picked them. We did have a lot of drops. I did take an extra artifact with Command Entourage. We are at 10 drops, 121. Isn't too bad for coalesced. 121 wounds is usually getting kind of up there on the wound count for a coalesced army. But some big hordes, lots of bodies, and a scary target with Gotrek. Lots of buff pieces and all my heroes. I don't have a slann, though. And, you're missing out on some of the things a slann does, giving you extra command points, board-wide unbinds. I do have chances at my extra command points from my Skink, Star Seer, and Star Priest. So you can kind of make up for it there. But overall, a little bit different than what you normally see. No monsters in the list. That was kind of also one of my things. I wanted to go no monsters just to see. It's just a monthly here, one day or so. I was gonna have some fun. One tactic I was planning on doing was with Gotrek and my Realm Shaper engine. So if the game type was one where your deployment zone is further, or your territory is further than your deployment zone, put my Realm Shaper engine as far up as I can. Make sure Gotrek is deployed within 6. You garrison him turn 1, which effectively gives him an extra, an 11-inch move. Then turn 2, you pop him out of the Realm Shaper engine within 6, so that effectively gives you about another 7 inches. And then you can make a charge from there. So you can kind of get Gotrek further than he would have if he had run turn 1 and then moved normally turn 2. And you have a pretty big bubble that you can ungarrison from your Realm Shaper and go either which way. The problem is, I drove up to the tournament. It's, about 45 minutes away from my house. And I left my Realm Shaper engine at home. So, guys, when you're planning strategy, don't leave the critical part of that strategy at home on your shelf behind you there. So that kind of hurt. I left my Realm Shaper at home. So now I couldn't get my Ashvalith, his ward save bigger. I couldn't do mortals from my Skink Wizards across the table at their terrain piece. And the strategic flexibility of deploying Gotrek into it, getting him extra range, didn't work. Oh man, fun times. So yeah, caveat that with how well I did the tournament. That's gonna be my excuse. All right, on to game 1. Game 1, I'm playing John, and he is playing Flesh Eater Courts. Let's take a look at this list here. Flesh Eater Courts with take what's theirs. So he's trying to get into my... Oh, I didn't even cover my grand strategy. I took the Show of Dominance, keep one Galatian Veteran in the middle of the board. I think I achieved it once. Anyway, on to Flesh Eater Courts, take what's theirs, inspired for Triumph. He does have a Crypt Infernal Courtier as his general, with Dark Acolyte as his command trait. He has an Abhorrent Archregent with Dermal Robe Spectral Host as a spell. A Ghoul King on Zombie Dragon with Arcane Tome, Razored Claw, and Flaming Weapons. And then here's the real meat of the list. He's got 2 units of 9 Crypt Flayers. Whew, that is scary. That unit of 9 Crypt Flayers are going to put literally a bucket of dice out on the table when they attack. I think they start with 4 attacks each, but then with his heroes, he's getting an extra attack from the one of those heroes. I can't remember if it's Dark Acolyte or something, or Spectral Host maybe. But then also the Archregent has a native spell that's an extra attack, and then it may be the Zombie Dragon has another one. Either way, you're getting extra attacks from all these things. He's got rerolls that he can get to. He summons in a couple extra heroes or Vargulfs to give more rerolls, and a pretty good list here. He's taking this one to a GT here coming up pretty soon, and I like that one a lot. But his Crypt Flayers are in Bounty Hunters, so they do extra damage versus Galatian Veterans. Not a big deal to me because I'm just gonna negate that right back down to 1. So not a big deal. The benefit of these Crypt Flayers for my list is that they are Galatian Veterans, and so if I can get my Knights into them, then I will do pretty well. So that's gonna be my strategy: is try to weather the storm and then get my Knights into his Crypt Flayers, because those things are terrifying. And he's going to heal him. If you don't kill him all the way off, he's going to heal him up real fast. Lots of heroes to do that. So here's our deployment. We're playing a game type, basically the Battle for the Past one. I can't remember what it's called. But you've got your one objective here. One's on either side in the middle, and then one on his objective. Lots of terrain in this territory. You can see where I probably would have put my Realm Shaper engine, but, forgot it. He put a lot of his power over on this right-hand side. He's got a Zombie Dragon and 9 Crypt Flayers, kind of in the middle, but shaded behind that building. Another 9 over here, a couple heroes sprinkled about. So I put my Knights over here. I'm thinking turn 1, he's going to make me go first. He outdropped me. I'm gonna move some Knights up the middle to eventually get this charge. I'm gonna keep Gotrek, who's against this tree right here, in the middle to hopefully de-incentivize him from bringing these Crypt Flayers down, and that's kind of what happened. These warriors, I'm just hoping to hold on for dear life, because I know these Crypt Flayers are going to come down on these warriors, and it's going to be nasty. I thought maybe this thing would come down too. He's going to summon in some stuff. I made sure and screened off to where he couldn't basically summon anywhere behind me. That was good. But I do have all my Knights here. I have all my support heroes in the middle. I'm not worried about getting shot or anything by him. And he does give me turn 1. Let's see what my... oh, here's his Crypt Flayers back there in the back. So, turn 1, back to here. Turn 1, I do take it. I buff up these warriors. I give them Mystic Shield and +1 to their save. So, they're rolling good. I give them the Mortal Wounds. So, hopefully this is a target that he doesn't want to attack. They're buffed up to the gills as best they can. And I'm pushing them forward to absorb anything he's going to send at me here. I basically just grab this objective here and then position my Knights as a screen. Put Gotrek right here in the middle on a run to go either left or right, depending on how the battle develops. On his turn, he brings these flares over into the warriors, juices them up pretty good, and one-shots the warriors. I mean, it's a good unit to attack the warriors because it's just a whole bunch of 1 damage attacks and just a bucket load of them. So that's exactly what, Coalesced is the weakness for Coalesced. We're looking for elite units that do high damage so that we can reduce that down. But these Crypt Flayers just come in and just absolutely wipe them out. Um, so now that's a big loss. If it comes down to, let's see, we'll come back to this. It comes down to, I think the turn from 1 to 2 is critical because my warriors are wiped out. I've got my knights kind of positioned heavy on this side, and he's brought these flares over here towards the middle to hold this objective. So I don't have a lot of good targets here on my turn, and if he gets it, he's coming down with his flares and just annihilating all my heroes. The rest of everything hold my objective, and might be game over. Luckily, I get the turn, and my Gotrek, who's sitting right here in the middle, he's about 9 away from his crypt flares, maybe 10 or so. I move him just right outside of 9 so he can't redeploy. And it's coming down to, can Gotrek make a 9-inch charge? I did spend all my buffs on my knights, and I position my Skink Starseer here in the middle so that I can get that 3d6 charge, and I'm going for those crypt flares. I send some other Saurus Guard up into these flares that are now free on the board here. They're empty, and that way I can charge in those Saurus Guard first to make sure that I can absorb any kind of unleash hell that he does. So I do make the charge on the Saurus Guard. I make the charge on Gotrek. And then I had to re-roll my charge on the Knights. They were rolling 3d6, and I think I had to make a pretty good charge, but I got it on the re-roll and got the Knights into his back unit of Crypt Flares. And so now I have my Knights lined up. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I got all the buffs on them, and I attack with them first. I'm hoping Gotrek survives these Crypt Flares. I do have a lot of the Crypt Flares pinned here with the Saurus Guard so that they can't all pile into Gotrek. So I attack with my Saurus Knights first, and the Saurus Knights completely wipe them out. Oh, it was beautiful. I was shocked. I was surprised. It's a lot of wounds here with 9 Crypt Flares. He did use all out attack or all out defense on him, I think. But they just wiped through him. And I didn't even get them all into attack. I think it was maybe like 6 of the 10. May have only been 5. But because they're Galician veterans, the lances were doing 3 damage each, and then everything else was doing 2 damage. So that's beautiful when that happens. I had my Saurus Cold One in range to give them the exploding 6s, so they had +1 to hit, re-rolling 1s, exploding 6s, and then 6s on the wounds were doing mortal wounds. So just beautiful when everything lines up perfectly. So that was nice. So they wipe out that one. The Crypt Flares attack, wipe out the Saurus Guard. Then they use Feeding Frenzy or Feast Day or whatever it's called. Feeding Frenzy, I think that's what it's called. And they pile in again to Gotrek. They only get a couple wounds on Gotrek. I think I may have had Mystic Shield on him, and I may have done all-out defense or something. So just to make sure he survived. The mortal wounds that they could do was actually the most terrifying part. And on that second attack, they were able to get in quite a few Crypt Flares. But Gotrek survived. Oh, yeah, we did have Mystic Shield on him. Gotrek survived and was able to then attack his 2 turns and wiped out that unit of Crypt Flares. So a absolutely huge, massive turn. There's where that went. So that priority roll from 1 to 2 was just absolutely critical because I got it going into 2 and took out both the units of 9 Crypt Flares. Just absolutely awesome. That right there, I mean, he lost 1,000 points of his army and basically all of his hitting power. He still had his little heroes around here, but I've got Gotrek on half health, and he's gonna heroic recover on the next hero phase. I've still got 2 units of knights playing around the board. I've still got a unit of Saurus Guard and stuff. All my heroes on the board. So we played out from there, but I'm able to hold on to that, score his objective, and the other ones on the board, hold the board for most of the rest of the game, and got the win here versus John. A heck of a game. It was a lot of fun. It was. I think we were both shocked that the 2 units of 9 Crypt Flares just disappeared in that turn. So that right there had my hopes up. I was like, this is exactly what I brought the Knights to do. When I get all my buffs lined up and they get the charge, they go into the right unit, they will obliterate things. And then Gotrek does what he does, tanks everything, and then kills something else. So I was feeling good about this one. Feeling good about this weird list I'm bringing. And game 2, we've got a Seraphon match off. So let's look at that game. Game 2 is against Sebastian, another Seraphon player. Very good. He usually does really well in our tournaments. And we were trying to figure out if I'd ever played him before. I don't think we have. So this may have been the first time Seraphon versus Seraphon for me and him. He's playing a little bit, a much more traditional Thunder Lizard list here than what I'm going with. He does have a Slann Master with Atixi Grubs to get the extra reroll and the heal. Very good for the Slann. Stellar Tempest to bust some hordes, which he used to great effect against my warriors. Saurus Astrolith Bear to give the extra range and +1 to cast. A Skink Star Priest with Hand of Glory. We've already talked about that. Skink Priest with heal. A Stegodon Chief as his general with Prime War Beast, Beastmaster, and Fusel. All pretty standard there. An Engine of the Gods with Arcane Tome, so now he can Vassal cast from the Slann through his engine if he needs to. With a spell, Fiery Convocation. Interesting spell pick there. This one, you can do the... if you cast it on a unit at the end of each phase on a 6, they take D3 mortal wounds. He had it on a couple of my units, but it never went off. An interesting take there. I might try for something a little different. If it goes off, it's just an extra way to get some mortal wounds. We do have Curse on the engine, which is pretty normal there. We do have 3 units of Knights. One is kind of up there with the battle line. 3 units of Knights. Are those all in Bounty Hunters? Those are 2 of them are in Bounty Hunters. One's in the Warlord Battalion. A unit of Skinks is just kind of a screen there. A Basildon with Solar Engine. A Purple Sun, and Gnashing Jaws. Right exactly at 2,000 points. So a pretty good list there. A very good list there. He went 3-0 in the tournament. Came in 2nd place, I believe. So a very good list there. And Purple Sun, Gnashing Jaws, all very good. Get some good debuffs and kill off some units. So let's take a look at our deployment. We're playing a game type where we have 1 objective back here. 1 up. Where was it? There's 1 here. 1 back here. Oh, 1 right there. They're kind of hard to see. They're just tiny little coins. Kind of in this weird, jigsaw pattern of deployment. And this game type, we had a special rule for this where on turn 1 you can only run 3 inches instead of 6 even if you do an auto run. So that kind of hurts me with my Gotrek strategy. You can see Sebastian actually brought his Realm Shaper engine. Hey, good job, Sebastian, remembering your important models there. So he did get to blow up terrain against me, and I didn't get to do that since I forgot mine. You can see I've got 1 unit of Knights over here with the cold one. And then some Saurus Guard, just to try to grab those objectives and hold out as long as we can since they are Expert Conquerors. I've got my big horde in the middle along with Gotrek, another unit of Knights, and then all my heroes in range here. They're not going to be in range to really buff this unit of Knights, but they can get this one over here on the right, and that's kind of my plan is to shoot them in here if I need to. I did outdrop him, so I am going to make him go first, and I'll talk about that here in a second, whether that was a good choice or not, but... yeah, he's got his screens over here, 1 unit in the middle, and his Skinks behind that. His Basildon, he played that a little aggressively. I think he could have I think in retrospect, he might have played that back a little further. There's no reason to deploy his Basildon that close up, but he did have to lay it down before he knew where some of my important pieces were, like Gotrek. I think he was wanting to make sure he could shoot into my Skink heroes, which is... is always a key target to shoot, especially against Coalesce, because those Skink heroes will go down like that since they don't have scaly skin. So they do make a juicy target. He has his kind of support heroes back here in the back with his engine and Stegodon Chief over here. So I do make him go first. He basically just brings his knights up as close as he can to Gotrek here and screen them off, so that I now can only basically move my entire army 3 inches. And I think that's where maybe I should have taken turn 1. And this guy's close enough that if I make a long bomb charge with Gotrek, I mean, I think it was going to have to be like a 10 or 11 with Gotrek to actually get that. Then I could have made it into his lines. But definitely I could have sent these knights all the way across the board and gummed up his works. I think in hindsight, that might have been a good play. But, the prospect of a double turn from 1 to 2 is just too great. I had to let him go and take the turn. So he does. I do give him first turn. He brings basically these guys down here to cap objectives. He moved these first, and I redeployed Gotrek. I didn't think he was going to get these guys within 9 of my Saurus guard. So I redeployed Gotrek, got an extra inch or 2. That was about it. If I had known he was going to bring them closer, he brought them within 9 of these guard, then I would have redeployed these guard and been able to steal this objective from him. That would have been huge. But maybe he wouldn't have brought him in within 9 if I didn't redeploy over here with Gotrek. So he basically screens me off. He does a lot of shooting into these knights here and picks off. I don't think he picks off my heroes, but he hurts them a lot. So they're down to like 1 or 2 wounds each. All my heroes over here. And he sends his Stegadon Chief into my knights, shoots a lot into him, does mortal wounds into him, does Stellar Tempest into him. So he basically takes out that unit in his first turn and screens off Gotrek. Let's see what we have here. Do we have... So in my turn, I basically take these objectives from him just by moving up. I move my... Basically, I can only move everything up just a couple inches and charge into his knights that were screening me. I was hoping for a big charge from Gotrek to kind of wrap around a little bit, and I was able to get a decent one, but not all the way over into these skinks. That's what I really wanted. If I could get all the way over into those skinks, then I could take out those skinks, pile into the Basildon, and have some good time there. But those knights he had moved up have basically screamed me out completely. So a great move there by Sebastian. So this is how the board looks going into priority roll for turn 2. I think if he gets it, he's removing my Saurus guard and probably doing some damage to my warriors here. But my Gotrek's getting awfully close to his core stuff back here. And that is a little worrisome to him. But I do get the double turn here. I get the double from 1 to 2. The weird thing is I can't move anything because if I do, these skinks are going to redeploy in front of Gotrek and keep me off the Basildon. So this core here that I really want to get these knights into combat and gum up like this engine, I can't move anything. So I move these warriors over here. I buff up the warriors with all the buff pieces I have left. And I think my Star Priest had been killed at this point. I think Star Priest had died. That's what had gotten killed. My Star Priest was on 1 health. My Star Seer was dead. So I get my knights or my warriors buffed up as much as I can. They actually do go over here and kill this Stegadon Chief. That was a great play here by the warriors. I was very happy with that. These Saurus guard just hang out here and control this objective. I don't want to send them into the knights because they'll lose that battle and I'll lose those objectives. So they just hold on the objective for now. My Gotrek, he's frozen solid, but he does make it into the Basildon. And I have him tagged up kind of around this side to where he can get the Basildon and then go pile in towards the Realm Shaper and kill off the heroes that are there. But he doesn't one-shot the Basildon as I had kind of hoped he would. I even had some knights in the Basildon, I think, after their charges. So, didn't one-shot him, but was able to kill the Basildon on the double hit with Gotrek. So not quite as good as I had hoped, but after my turn 2, I've killed his Stegadon Chief. I killed his Basildon. I hold 3 of the 4 objectives. and his prospects are looking pretty slim. And we had talked about it. We're like, at this point, we thought the game was over. You know, I still have most of my bodies. I'm just missing one unit of knights. That's it. And Gotrek is in the middle of his army. So we kind of assumed the game was over. But this is Age of Sigmar, and dice happen, you know? Well, not just dice. Do not blame this on dice at all. Sebastian played an incredible game after this. He basically moved around the board. I think we got a picture here of, gosh, what happened? Here's where we left it. You know, going in my turn. He's lost the Stegadon Chief, everything. He basically brings these knights down into my Saurus Guard. Doesn't kill them off. I actually hold off these objectives for another turn. But these warriors, he just somehow he whittles these warriors down using Stellar Tempest, the engine, Mortal Wounds. What else was it? I don't even feel like there was much else. He just whittled them down slowly, and got them down. I think he charged in like his Astrolith and Slann into the warriors and just stayed alive. The warriors couldn't kill the Slann. The warriors couldn't kill the Astrolith. And they just sat there beating those warriors down, casting spells on them until he killed off that entire unit of warriors with a Slann and a Astrolith. What? You don't math out that ever happening. His engine came down and attacked these knights who were here, but the knights held the engine in place, and Gotrek got over there and got the engine, but he doubled from 2 to 3, and going into turn 3 or going into turn 4 maybe, it basically looked like this. I hit these warriors down here are just my dead pile. He got in a summons. These warriors outlasted the guard. The guard didn't kill any of them. I was rallying these warriors here. No, I wasn't rallying these warriors. I was rallying. Oh, gosh, here was a... I could have... This would have sealed the game. I had one knight back here that just needed to go score this objective. I rallied, rolled 9 dice. I think I rallied that unit of knights twice and got 1 back. Then his burning head, which I couldn't dispel because all my heroes are dead other than Gotrek, went over there, did exactly the number of mortal wounds he needed to do in my turn. So I couldn't go grab his objective. That might right there, I don't know if it would have sealed the game, but it would have made a huge difference because at that point I was still holding that one in mine. Or no, I would have held that one, and he didn't have this one, and he didn't have this one because he had his knights had gotten off of it while it was a proving ground. These warriors here just could not kill the Slann. Pitiful. Gotrek could he could only do so much, so he had killed off the engine, but there were just too many bodies left on the board. He could kill off one of those per turn, but without capturing that back objective, and eventually he would get the other objective from me. So at that point, Sebastian was gonna hold me off, and just score just barely more than me on the objective. So a heck of a game there. I thought for sure I had it once I had killed off his Stegadon Chief, his Basilon, and Gotrek was sitting like 4 inches away from his Slann. But nope, that wasn't going to happen. Wasn't the plans of the old ones. They saw my list and felt that I wasn't worthy since I had brought Gotrek. So, good game there by Sebastian. It was a lot of fun. It's always fun when a game, looks like it's going away and it tips and goes the other way. No matter who wins, that makes a game pretty exciting. So he clawed that one back and won it. A very good player, and he went on to go 3-0 in this tournament. So, good job. On to game 3. Game 3 was against Xavier, and this was there was one thing I didn't want to see in the tournament. I mean, whatever. But this, my list is entirely melee. There's no shooting in my list. The one thing I didn't want to see was OBR. And I think there were 2 people playing OBR in this list in this tournament. So it was a good chance I was going to get one of them. And I got Xavier, and he's playing Osiarch Boner. The reason I didn't want them is because they are just so hard to kill in melee. All my Knights attacks don't matter when you've got pluses to your save. You've got re-rolling all your saves on these Mortek Guard. So my Knights, I don't have enough rend. Even if I do -1 to your save, congratulations. In his list, these Mortek are going to be at least +1, probably +2 to their save. So, and re-rolling it all. So I know that these Knights just aren't going to do enough damage to the OBR. This was the one thing I really wasn't wanting to face. But maybe we can make it happen. So here's Osiarch, Bone Reapers, Mortis Praetorian. Grand Strategy, take what's theirs. He's got a Triumph Bloodthirsty. He's got Catacross, which really helps out all the Mortis Praetorian stuff. A Liege Kavalos as your general with Catacross's Chosen, Artificer Blade. He's got a Bone Shaper with Artisan's Key and Empowered Netherite Weapons. A Soul Mason with Drained Vitality. He's got a unit of Death Riders and 2 units of double reinforced Mortek Guard. Then he's also got 2 units of Stalkers. The Stalkers were in Bounty Hunters along with the Death Riders. Again, that doesn't really matter too much for me. It does make a difference on the Stalkers because the Stalkers can get +1 to their damage other ways, and then they can also get the Bounty Hunters +1. So that does make them a little bit better, even against Coalesce. It makes them very good against other things, but does help out against Coalesce with our -1 damage. He has he does have Command Entourage, Expert Conquerors. I think he still outdropped me by 1, so he was gonna be able to determine the order. He has a Bone-Tied Nexus, which actually he was in the same boat as me. He forgot his terrain piece. So this is play back on this board, the same one we played on in game 1. This is our deployment here. And he had put quite a bit of his power over on this right-hand side. Well, he put 1 unit of Mortek Guard. So I was lining up my Knights to power them up if I got first turn and send them into the Mortek Guard. I was kind of hoping he was going to give me first turn so that I could get into those Mortek Guard before he got up all his buffs. But he's a smart enough player. He actually took first turn, but he did it on purpose so he can get all his buffs up on these units. So, and kind of position where he wants to and pin me back with his Death Rider. So, Gotrek is here. Once I saw where most of his power was on this side, I'm sending Gotrek up that right flank towards, like Catacross. That's probably the only thing I have that could even get close to killing Catacross. So, most of my heroes are on that side. I did leave my cold ones over here. I guess maybe I didn't have many heroes on this side. I have some guard over here capturing that objective and some knights here. I know these Death Rider are probably going to come down here, and I think I'm okay with that. I don't feel like the Death Riders are going to really take out my stuff too fast, and I can hold that objective from them. I know that they're going to come all the way across the board. The Death Riders will usually hit you from their side of the board turn 1, so his Stalkers are kind of hidden back here, kind of waiting to deploy whichever way he needs them to go. I think he's got, or maybe he's got 1 unit there too. Another unit of Mortek Guard there in the middle. So I'm going to hopefully send up this unit of Guard to block here, this unit of Warriors. Respond with my Knights, whichever way I need to go after I've hit with these Knights. So he takes first turn, gets his Death Riders into me. There's some of his stuff. Yeah, so turn 1, he doesn't do a whole lot. Sends his Death Riders over here. We won't talk about them much. They basically fight the Guard and these Knights pretty much all game. It was like a pillow fight over there. The Death Riders weren't doing anything. I retreated these Guard out and started rallying them after a little while. These Knights went into him, but without any buffs. The Knights were doing nothing. His Death Riders were doing nothing. Eventually, we killed them off, but it took forever. That was ridiculous. He basically just kind of positioned his Guard up a little bit and to keep me off of his objective. He knew he's going to take the charge, and that's what happened. I power up my Knights, but I don't get all the buffs off that I wanted. I failed a couple of spells on those Knights, and so I didn't get all the buffs that I wanted to on them. But I was like, if I don't send them in, then they're going to... they're just going to get insta-killed next turn if he gets the turn. So I was a little worried about that. So I send him in anyway. I I know they're not going to be quite as effective. I wasn't planning on charging Gotrek, but I made just a super long charge and I could get into Catacross. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to try to kill Catacross. In retrospect, this is probably where I made my critical error. Now, granted, I don't think I'd have a chance of winning this game anyway. Mortek are just too powerful in melee. They countered all my stuff here perfectly. Gotrek was going to have to carry everything in this list to actually make it worth a chance. So I thought my one chance here was going to be able to like one-shot Catacross. I know these Knights, since I didn't get them powered up as much as I wanted to, wasn't going to be able to take out this unit of Mortek. Let's try to absorb whatever damage I can here from the Mortek. Let's see if I can kill Catacross. Get lucky. One-shot Catacross. I need to roll lots of sixes on Gotrek. I'm re-rolling everything looking for sixes. So my first roll with Gotrek, I do no sixes. So I pick up all the dice. I roll them again. The next one, I get like 1 6, and I roll 2 mortal wounds. So Gotrek basically fails. He saves everything else. I do a little bit of damage to him, but not much. So that is incredibly disappointing. So on his turn, he piles in quite a few Mortek into Gotrek just to do as much damage as they can. They can reach over the top. He puts, maybe he gets about a third of them into the Gotrek and about a third into the Saurus Knights. Like, I think I had failed like Mystic Shield. I think I'd failed my +1 to save. I think the only thing they had, I think I'd failed Hand of Glory. I think the only thing I had was the Mortal Wounds. So his Mortek Guard absolutely destroyed those Knights. So I think I had 2 or 3 left. That was it. And Gotrek took a couple of wounds from the Mortek. So just a horrible little chance of events there. Maybe if I had attacked with the Knights first, I could have done quite a bit more damage to the Mortek, and maybe they wouldn't have been able to stick around so long. Probably not, because at that point he would have done reroll his saves instead of reroll his hits. So then he was able to pile in these Mortek Guard here into Gotrek and attack with Catacross. Got Gotrek about half health from all of that. Gotrek was able to attack again, and this time actually did a little bit better, but still I think I only did like 1 or 2 mortal wounds to him, but did some extra damage otherwise. Got him down to about 5 health. So his second attack did quite a bit better. Still not a ton of mortal wounds though. Unfortunately, it just wasn't. If I could have gotten some mortal wounds, I think in total I did a total of 6 mortal wounds onto him. It was just 3 mortal wounds onto him. It was pitiful. Come on, Gotrek. That's what you're there for. So, you're rolling 6 dice with rerolls. So I had 24 dice rolls looking for 6s. I should have gotten more than 3 mortal wounds out of that. But that would have been nice to one-shot. I don't know that I would have won the game even if I had one-shotted Catacross, but it would have been a heck of a lot easier because you lose a lot of the buffs, a lot of the resurrection that way. So that would have made it a lot easier. So I don't do that. Now he's down to 5 health, and if I can get the turn, maybe I've still got a chance. I can for sure kill him. He's only got 5 health left. I can for sure kill him with Gotrek at this point. Gotrek will die because Mortek were all over me at that point. But at least I could kill Catacross. He gets the double turn, or he doesn't get the double turn. He gets the priority into 2. Kills off Gotrek, kills off the rest of the Knights that were still there. And now he's sitting pretty. So over the course of the game, this is by the end of it. He swings down his Mortek, just obliterates the Saurus Guard. Just absolutely destroys them. I win this one over here and eventually push Knights over here to force some movement over here. So I'm at least playing the game. He brings his Liege Cavalos down here. I'm able to hold off here and here for a little bit. But the Mortek Guard in combat, they don't even need that many buffs. It's just an excellent, excellent war scroll. Once you give them buffs, they just get ridiculous. So he still had all his Mortek Guard. They kept healing up throughout the turns since I wasn't able to kind of string many turns together. and he just absolutely destroyed me. So, great game there by Xavier. I knew going into this one, my melee heavy army with not much rend was going to struggle, and it for sure did. I almost had a moral victory there by killing off Catacross, but Gotrek just couldn't quite get it done. Good game, though. Had a lot of fun. So, in conclusion, how did I like the list? I thought it was fun. I thought it had, a purpose here. I thought it was interesting. I don't think the relying on spellcasting buffs from my Starseer and Star Priest, even though the Starseer was normally at +2 with a reroll, just couldn't get off enough spells. It's just there's too much strong wizards in this game. All three lists we faced had decent wizards that were able to counteract my spells. So I did miss having the slann. The Starseer and Star Priest, not once did they generate me any extra command points this entire game. That was crazy. The Starseer's on a 4-up. The Star Priest is on a 5-up. I maybe once, but I was running so low on command points this entire game. So I did miss having the extra ones from the slann. But I think my MVP is for sure Gotrek. I mean, he did basically all the heavy lifting for me. He did a lot of the damage. He killed off, what was his kill count? He had 9 flayers. He had a zombie dragon. He had 9. Oh, that was all in that one. He had a Bastildon. He had some skinks. He had an Engine of the Gods. He had nearly had Catacross. I guess he didn't have anything in game 3. I have only lost Gotrek maybe 2 or 3 times in all the tournaments I've taken him, and this was one of them. Got killed by the Mortek Guard, which is a very good counter to him. Lots of attacks, doing mortal wounds, and just throwing buckets of dice at him. So that's one way to kill him. But Gotrek did very well. The Knight strategy did work. When you can get it off, the sending in 10 Knights buffed up to the gills is just awesome. It does a ton of work. It will kill just about whatever you get it into. But you do have to line up those things perfectly. And I kind of found that those, what was it? Yeah, 3 heroes that I have buffing a unit, you can only put those on 1 unit at a time. Obviously, I knew that. In your head, you're thinking, I'll send in this unit of Knights, I'll send in this unit of Knights, and then I've got my Warriors as backup to send in when I need to. But the game just doesn't go down that way. You get too much stuff tangled up in combat too fast, and you can't buff everything at once. So, Seraphon has, they have some great heroes. The units are usually kind of lackluster until you get the buffs from the heroes up on it. Then they start to shine. So you can't get all those buffs up all at the same time. Game 2, I lost my heroes just so fast to Comet's Call, to shooting, to mortal wounds, that I wasn't ever really able to get my Starseer to do much that game. So that one kind of wasn't much fun. But I mean, it was a fun game, but didn't get to pull off my strategies. So I like the Knights. I think that was a lot of fun. Source Warriors, they killed a Stegodon Chief. Other than that, they pretty much just took up board space and died. The Warriors didn't really do a whole lot. The Saurus Guard, they did okay. They stuck around when they needed to, but they were really just kind of screens and cap objective. If you want something other than skinks to cap objectives and you want to pay more points for them, Source Guard are for you. So pretty fun. I had a lot of fun with this. Definitely a combat army. Next time, I think, what would I change? To be honest, I'd probably drop Gotrek. It's just not thematic in the Seraphon army. Even though I like mine that has the conversion, and he did probably kill more than anything else in my army. You gotta replace that with some Seraphon, right? All right, guys, that's it for my tournament. If you played any tournament, let me know below in the comments how you did. I'm sure you did better than me. So give me some war stories. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.